Phase G is where architecture meets delivery. Architects help teams build the approved solution, confirm alignment with contracts and standards, and manage exceptions before they become risks. The goal is simple: protect business value while implementation moves forward. You've built the foundation: enterprise architecture, TOGAF, target architectures, cloud and AI solution design, security, governance, and migration planning. Now the focus shifts from planning to control. Phase G ensures implementation follows the approved architecture before operational change management begins. At this point, architecture stops being only a plan and becomes controlled delivery. The target architecture and roadmap have already been approved, but projects still make hundreds of design choices. Governance keeps those choices aligned. The architecture contract sets expectations between stakeholders and delivery teams. Checkpoints during design, build, test, deployment, and transition provide assurance that the solution remains compliant. If a team cannot follow the agreed architecture, the deviation is handled through an exception or waiver, not informal drift. That is the bridge Phase G provides. Implementation governance is the operating system for execution. It clarifies who can approve design choices, who owns compliance, who accepts risk, and where unresolved issues go. Without it, teams may move fast, but decisions can become disconnected from architecture intent and business outcomes. Strong governance brings delivery, architecture, security, compliance, product, and operations into the same decision loop. It also creates traceability: why a choice was made, what requirement it supports, and what trade-off was accepted. When conflicts or deviations appear, escalation is defined, transparent, and timely, so cost, risk, quality, and progress stay visible. An architecture contract turns architectural intent into an accountable delivery agreement. It states, in practical terms, what the solution must follow, who is responsible for each commitment, and what evidence will prove compliance. This includes standards, principles, constraints, quality attributes, deliverables, controls, and release conditions. Its value is not bureaucracy. Its value is clarity. Delivery teams know the boundaries. Sponsors know what is being protected. Governance bodies know what to assess before approving a milestone or production release. A good contract makes conformance measurable, not opinion-based. Think of the architecture contract as the bridge between intent and delivery. It does not just say build securely or use approved patterns. It names the standards, deliverables, controls, and evidence that prove the work is acceptable. For example, a team may need to use RBAC, Key Vault, Private Link, logging, policy compliance, or model monitoring depending on the solution. The key is measurability. Every requirement should have an owner and a way to verify it. That turns architecture from guidance into an assurance mechanism the delivery team can actually execute. In Phase G, approval is not based only on whether the feature works. A service may return the right result and still fail governance if it does not meet availability, performance, security, privacy, reliability, cost, or operability expectations. Approval conditions make those expectations explicit. They define the evidence needed before delivery moves forward, such as test results, review records, deployment validation, and control attestations. For AI solutions, the gate must also confirm data governance, responsible AI controls, and model risk management. The takeaway is simple: feature complete is not the same as architecture compliant. Delivery governance keeps architecture connected to real delivery without becoming a separate approval machine. The goal is to place guidance where decisions already happen: backlog refinement, sprint planning, design discussions, testing, and release readiness. Teams get timely input, and architects get evidence that the solution is still aligned. Governance also makes technical debt visible early. Not every shortcut is a problem, but unmanaged shortcuts become structural risk. Done well, delivery governance keeps pace high while protecting long-term integrity. Design reviews are the checkpoint between good intent and real build commitments. Before teams lock in a platform, integration pattern, or security approach, architects compare the proposed design against the agreed architecture contract. They test alignment across business, data, application, technology, and security views. When gaps appear, the team identifies options, trade-offs, and assumptions rather than making silent exceptions. clear decisions can be approved. Unresolved risks move to the architecture board or governance forum. The final decision record becomes both evidence and guidance for future teams. In agile delivery, governance should not feel like a gate at the end. It should be part of sprint-level decision-making. Architecture input helps shape what enters the backlog, what is ready for sprint planning, and what qualifies as done. The architecture runway is the set of enabling capabilities teams need before feature work can safely take off. Identity, networking, CI/CD, observability, data pipelines, and controls. Architects add value by clearing dependencies, defining reusable patterns, and reducing ambiguity, so teams move faster without building on unstable foundations. Implementation assurance is where architecture governance becomes evidence-based. Instead of relying on "we think it is ready," teams inspect concrete proof, test outcomes, deployment logs, security scans, architecture decisions, and control attestations. This evidence is checked against the architecture contract, standards, policies, and regulatory obligations. The result should support a clear release decision: go, no go, or proceed only with documented exceptions. Just as important, the evidence becomes an audit trail for operations, future changes, and compliance reviews, so assurance continues after deployment, not just before it. During implementation, technical debt should never be treated as an informal side effect of delivery pressure. Shortcuts like manual deployment, temporary endpoints, deferred controls, or missing automated tests must be captured and assessed. The key question is not, is there debt, but what risk does it create? Phase G looks at cost, security, resilience, scalability, and maintainability, then requires conscious approval. Acceptable trade-offs get owners, target dates, and backlog priority. High-impact or urgent debt is escalated because unmanaged debt quickly becomes unmanaged architecture risk. Exception management is not a loophole. It is a governance mechanism for controlled flexibility. When a team detects a deviation from standards, target architecture, contracts, or compliance rules, the first step is impact assessment. Consider business value, security exposure, operations, cost, schedule, and regulatory risk. If the deviation is justified, document the waiver, rationale, owner, expiry date, compensating controls, and approval authority. Approval can be granted, rejected, or limited. Then track it actively until remediation or formal closure. The goal is to support delivery without allowing temporary exceptions to become permanent architectural drift. Here is what that looks like in practice. Suppose an Azure AI service must release before a private endpoint is ready. The team requests a time-bound waiver, explains the risk, and gets approval from the right owner. Because the preferred control is delayed, they add compensating controls, such as restricted IP access, stronger logging, and enhanced monitoring. The remediation plan then names the owner, tasks, milestones, target date, and evidence needed to prove closure. The exception register keeps the decision visible and auditable, and escalates anything overdue or too risky. Phase G is where architecture becomes governed delivery. Architecture contracts set expectations, controls, and approval conditions. Delivery governance keeps assurance active through sprints, reviews, releases, runway planning, and debt management. Exceptions are allowed, but only with clear waivers, compensating controls, and remediation. Next, Phase H examines how architecture evolves in operations as needs, risks, and technologies change.